Multicrafter, multicraftual maker, multi-creative, multi-potentialite. Person who is obviously trying to fill the existential void in her heart with fibre crafts. Whatever you want to call it, if you have watched any of my videos before, you know I am an enthusiastic one of those. Cross-stitch, knitting, crochet, sewing, needle felting, resin, 3D printing, lately air-dry clay, you name it, I will try it and I will probably love it. One thing I've learned since starting this channel is that this is apparently a non-standard way to live. As if most people just pick the craft that makes them happiest and then stick to that one. Does not compute. I can definitely see the appeal if I close one eye and squint, but you do you. It's just not for me. Anyway, today I wanted to show you the other point of view and kick off a new monthly mini-series on the channel all about being a multi-crafter. So let's start things off by looking at the top 5 reasons I love being a multicraftual maker. Side note, before we properly dig into this, I do want to just take a moment to acknowledge the fact that there are a lot of new people discovering the channel this week. A huge thank you to Chris Cross-Stitch for the lovely shout out he gave me in his latest video, and if you wandered over here from there, very warm welcome to you. As you can already tell, I am not only a cross-stitcher, although it is in my top 3 crafts and I cover it a lot on this channel and also on Instagram. I have a video playlist dedicated to mostly cross-stitch content and another dedicated to my monthly floss tube style crafter's log updates. I hope you'll stick around for my other crafty content and I look forward to getting to know you, so please do say hello in the comments and introduce yourselves. Okay, on we go. Reason 1 that it is awesome being a multi-crafter. You will never be bored again. Okay, so we're starting with the obvious here, but it is a huge part of the attraction of multi-crafter life, so I couldn't not cover it even if I wanted to. Variety. It's the spice of life, or so I hear. It's normal to go through phases with crafting, or really with any hobby in general. Crocheters might lose their crojo completely during the summer when the thought of working on that big work in progress blanket becomes a sweaty nightmare. Cross-stitchers might sink into a pit of despair after a particularly gruesome frogging session. But multi-crafters can just switch to something else for a while and keep right on making. Different crafts are also suitable for different places and situations. For example, you might have a small sock knitting project on the go for those times when you're on the bus, and embroidery would be far too fiddly and you would only end up losing the needle. A sewing project for when you've got the house to yourself and you can spread your mess all over the kitchen floor uninterrupted. And a simple clay project maybe for later in the evening when you just want to sit down, relax and play with something tactile and fun. When you've got all of these options open to you, there's always something that takes your fancy. Reason 2. You can rise to any gifting occasion. A skilled multi-crafter will be able to make something that almost anyone will appreciate as a gift. As much as I love, say, crochet, some people just don't like the look of crocheted fabric, so it would be pointless foisting my hooking on them anyway. Obviously, first thing, they're wrong, crochet fabric looks awesome, but everyone is different and maybe they would prefer a knitted version instead. As another example, my recent clay phone holder make solved a problem that fibre crafts just wouldn't have been able to solve. Yeah, you could knit a sort of phone beanbag, I guess, and it would serve the same purpose, except it wouldn't be waterproof, and this one needed to be kept near a sink. I suppose you could sew a phone beanbag out of waterproof fabric, but look, you know what I'm saying here. You can't make a set of outrageously fancy dice for a Dungeons & Dragons enthusiast if your only craft is needle felting. And you can't gift a new family heirloom quilt if the only thing you know how to do is 3D print. Crafting should be for yourself, first and foremost. It's your time, it's your money, and it should be bringing you joy. But for some of us, being able to gift our makes is a really big part of that joy, so it's number 2 on this list. Reason 3, it's better for your health. You probably know that there's evidence for all kinds of health benefits related to various crafts, both physical and mental. But we've all also experienced, or at least know someone who has experienced the flip side of that. Repetitive strain injuries from making the same movements over and over again. Back pain from sitting in the same position for hours and hours on end stitching. In some cases, literal dislocated fingers. It is really not pretty. But add a variety of crafts and suddenly we're not sitting in the same position every single night. We're getting up and moving between our crafting corner and the sewing machine. We're not straining our wrists with repetitive knitting motions, but we're alternating between that and, say, kneading clay. Too much of anything can be bad for you, and that definitely includes doing the same craft night in, night out. Reason 4. It's better for your self-confidence too. You make things with your own 2 hands. That's amazing! How many people do you know who can make cute toys out of basically a ball of string? Or design and make their own wall art out of a series of tiny crosses? Or make and adjust their own clothes for the perfect fit so they always look great? Well, if you're watching this, you're probably a crafter, and the answer to that is probably, I know a lot of people who do that. But you get my point. Crafting is amazing. It's a powerful thing, and it can give you a real sense of achievement. On top of that, the more new skills you pick up, the more confident you become in your ability to learn more new things. And anecdotally, that sort of confidence seems like something that a lot of people could do with more of. There's a comprehensive YouTube tutorial for literally anything these days, and yet we still constantly hear these claims of, "Oh, I could never do that," or "You must be cleverer than me to make that." No, don't you ever say that to me again. You can learn anything you decide to learn. End of. Reason 5, you meet all kinds of awesome new people. Of course, I couldn't wrap this list up without mentioning how great it is to meet people from all walks of life. Even within the narrow box of fibre arts, I'm glad to have met my cross-stitch friends, and I'm glad to have met my knitting friends, and I'm glad in many cases to have introduced them to each other when they would never have met otherwise. Add in 3D printing and laser cutting friends, jewellery making friends, the occasional sculptor friend or vintage tatting obsessed friend, and you start to get quite a diverse bunch of people. When you do all of the crafts, it's easy to jump into a conversation around them and find things in common with so many other people. You get a better appreciation for the time that went into making things outside of your primary craft, which means you can be sure you are making an appropriately impressed face at a finished object. Or maybe most people don't worry so much about whether they're pulling the correct face as I do. This might be the last item on my list, but it is honestly the most important to me. We live in a small town where I know basically nobody. There are no craft groups beyond a bunch of retirees who meet up once a week during working hours. And also, there's this little pandemic thing. I know that I'm far from the only one in a situation like this. So being able to cast a wide net and find something in common with such a wide range of people is really beneficial, whether you're socialising online or just chatting to someone who asked about your sock knitting on the bus. Which absolutely does happen. So, what do you think? Have I inspired you to pick up a new hobby maybe? Or does it just all sound kind of exhausting? If you're a multi-crafter like me, what are your favourite things about our hectic lifestyle? And if you're more of a specialist, I would love to hear how you managed to settle on just one craft. At some point in the not too distant future, I'll put out a sequel to this video with the 5 worst things about being a multi-crafter, but there's lots of other cool content to come first, including a new cross-stitch tutorial and free pattern, and an experiment in which my boyfriend Dave attempts to learn crochet.
How do you think this is gonna go?
Am I allowed to swear on your channel?
Alright, I'll see you soon, so in the meantime, have a brilliant rest of your day, and keep making cool stuff. Bye!